It is dark. You are almost asleep. Then you hear it, that thin, high whine right beside your ear. You slap at nothing. You pull the blanket over your head. You lie there listening, waiting for it to come back. In the morning, there are 3 red bumps on your arm, and you have forgotten them by lunch. Now take the room away. Take the window screen away. Take the blanket, the ceiling, the spray in the cupboard. You are lying on open ground in Africa. The air is warm and wet. The sun went down 4 hours ago. That same whine is out there in the dark, coming from 1,000 of them. And some of those bites carry something that can kill you. There is no screen. There is no spray. There is no doctor in the morning. This was every night, for 200,000 years. So how did anyone survive it? Start with what was actually in the air. In 2024, a team led by the Max Planck Institute in Leipzig published something extraordinary in Nature. They pulled malaria DNA straight out of ancient skeletons. 36 people, 16 countries, 5,500 years of human history, read from the parasite instead of the person. Here is what surprises people. Malaria was never only a tropical disease. They found Plasmodium vivax across Europe from the Stone Age to the 1700s, cold, gray, northern Europe. The oldest falciparum infection they identified came from a tomb high in the mountains. A trader who died around 2,800 years ago, carrying a parasite that had no business being up there. Trade moved it. Armies moved it. Ships moved it. Wherever people walked, the mosquito's cargo walked with them. This is not a story about one hot corner of the world. Your ancestors, wherever they were standing in it. Picture what an infection meant out there. The fever climbs. It breaks. Days later, it climbs again. You cannot walk. You cannot hunt. You are lying on the ground burning while the group decides whether to move on without you. There is no pill, there is no clinic, there is a fire, some water, and whoever is willing to sit with you. Children died of this constantly, and nobody in that camp knew why. Nobody could see the parasite. Nobody could see the mosquito carrying it. They only knew that the wet season came, and then people started dying. Now look at what they did about it. Go to Border Cave in the hills on the border of South Africa and Eswatini. Lynn Wadley, an archaeologist at the University of the Witwatersrand, has spent years excavating that floor. In 2020, her team reported what they found there in the journal Science. They found a bed, grass bedding, cut, and carried in and spread across the cave floor 200,000 years ago. The oldest bed ever found anywhere on Earth. Then look underneath the grass. Ash, layer after layer of it, packed flat, not spilled from a fire, laid down first, on purpose, with the grass placed on top. Ash is a weapon. It is dry, fine, and abrasive. It clogs small crawling bodies and dries them out, and it keeps ticks and biting insects from moving up into the bedding. 200,000 years ago, somebody worked out that you sleep on ash. Think about how many bad nights that lesson cost. There is one more thing in that bedding. Charcoal from Tarchonanthus trilobus, the broad-leaved camphor bush. It is powerfully aromatic. Ash handles the ones that crawl. Aromatic smoke handles the ones that fly. That is a 2-layer defense system built by people with no metal, no writing, and no idea what a parasite was. Move forward in time. Same country. A rock shelter called Sibudu in KwaZulu-Natal. Wadley's team published this one in Science in 2011, and it is somehow even sharper. 3 meters of sediment. At least 15 separate layers of bedding stacked inside it. Sedges, rushes, and grasses, compacted flat by bodies. The oldest layer sits 77,000 years ago, and it is capped by a leaf layer as thin as tissue paper. Botanists identified the leaves. Cryptocarya woodii, the river wild quince. Its leaves carry natural insecticidal chemicals, and they are effective against mosquitoes. Out of every plant growing on that hillside, they picked that one, every time. The site has one more detail that changes how you see them. From about 73,000 years ago, the people at Sibudu burned their bedding regularly. Torch the old bed, clear whatever is living in it, lay a fresh grass down. They were not sleeping on a pile of plants, they were maintaining equipment. Think about what that requires. Somebody has to know which leaf works. Somebody has to know where it grows and when to cut it and how thick to lay it. Then somebody has to teach all of that to a child who will teach it to another child. 77,000 years of that knowledge carried in nothing but conversation. You could reasonably ask whether any of this actually worked. So did researchers. Field trials in Ethiopia burned traditional repellent plants and measured what happened to Anopheles arabiensis, one of the main mosquitoes carrying malaria across Africa. The smoke works. Landing rates fall. Juniper does better still, because the terpenoids in its wood and leaves are not only repellent, they are larvicidal. That smoke kills mosquitoes before they ever grow wings. The bed at Border Cave was not a comfort or a superstition. It was working chemistry, thousands of generations before anyone had a word for chemistry. Here is where the whole story turns around. In 2020, a Princeton team led by Noah Rose published a study in Current Biology. They collected mosquitoes from 27 sites across sub-Saharan Africa and sequenced the genomes of 375 individual insects. Most mosquitoes are not fussy. They bite whatever is warm and nearby. Some populations, though, are specialists. They want you specifically, and they will fly past a goat to reach you. Two things predict more than 80% of that difference: how long and how brutal the dry season is. How many people live there? Sit with what that means. In places where the dry season burns everything off, the last standing water in the landscape is the water people collected and stored. The mosquitoes that bred in our pots were the ones that survived the drought. Their descendants inherited a taste for whatever animal was sleeping beside the pot. We did not simply get bitten, we stored water, we clustered together, and we trained an insect onto our own scent. Read that again because it inverts the whole story. The clay pot is a survival tool. The village is a survival tool. Every clever thing we invented to get through a dry season was also a nursery, sitting in the shade, full of still water. We were not victims of the mosquito, we were its habitat. The bite itself is almost nothing. What rides in on it is the problem. In 2010, a team publishing in Nature sampled nearly 3,000 wild apes across Central Africa, hunting for the origin of the deadliest human malaria parasite. It was not in chimpanzees, it was not in bonobos. Plasmodium falciparum came out of western gorillas, and every known human strain sits inside a single branch of the gorilla parasite family. One transfer, one mosquito, feeding on a gorilla, then feeding on a person. Every falciparum death in all of human history traces back through that one bite. Now look at what surviving it did to us. Somewhere in Central West Africa, near what is now Cameroon, one child was born with a single change in one gene. Whole genome work traces that mutation back 259 generations, roughly 7,300 years ago. One origin, one baby, inherit that change from both parents and you get sickle cell disease, which is severe and often lethal. Inherit it from one parent and you get something else. Real protection against severe falciparum malaria. That is a horrifying trade, and evolution took it anyway. The mosquito pressed so hard on our species that a mutation this costly still spread, because the alternative was worse. It is still in millions of people today. It is a scar, carried in the blood from a fight with an insect. Look at the whole shape of it. 200,000 years ago, we were sleeping on ash. 77,000 years ago, we were picking one specific insecticidal leaf and burning the bed to clean it. 7,300 years ago, the fight had moved into our DNA. Today, it is a plug-in device on the wall and a can in the cupboard. Same enemy, same wine, the whole way down. Nothing else in our history has that shape. The cave lion is gone. The cave bear is gone. The giant eagle that took our children out of the air is gone. We outlasted every large predator that ever hunted us. The mosquito is still here, and it is still winning more often than any of them ever did. The mosquito is the deadliest animal in the history of our species, and it never once fought us directly. It has no claws and no teeth worth the name. It simply arrived every night in numbers forever, and we answered it with ash, smoke, leaves, and fire until our own blood changed shape. So the next time you are lying in the dark and that thin whine crosses your ear and you slap at the air and pull the blanket up, understand what you are doing. You are performing the newest move in the oldest fight your species has ever had. Every ancestor in your line got through that night. Every single one. The ones who did not are not in your family tree. That is not a bug in your bedroom. That is you still winning.